I would just say treat everybody the way you'd want to be treated. And the more you can do that, the happier you're going to be, the more friends you're going to have, the more opportunities happen, the more things come your way. The more negativity you let in your life, the more things are going to affect you badly, for sure. So I would say enjoy life, love everybody, and just get up tomorrow and do what you wanted to do. Don't wait. There's no point to wait. You don't know when it's going to end. So don't wait. I'm Damien LeRoy. I was born in Vail, Colorado. I grew up with a beautiful family that just shared an amazing experience with us. We had a fishing lodge in Alaska in the summers, and my brother and I were fishing guides at a really young age. We were a big ski racing family, and that's all I thought I was going to do is ski race my whole life. And I did, and I pushed it to as far as I could go, and throughout life you go through these transitions, and I made a transition at about 17 years old, and ended up being in Florida, and yeah, started playing with some kites, and wow, here we are now.
Tell me more about how you ended up in Florida.
Sure. So I was a big skier. We traveled, we competed everywhere, and that's all I did was ski race. That's what I knew was my life. I thought the only way to be the best skier in the world was to train harder than everybody else. So in the summers, half the summer I'd work at my parents' fly fishing business in Alaska, 100 miles in the middle of the bush and from Anchorage, Alaska. And then the other half, I would spend my summers at Mount Hood, Oregon, training on a glacier. So my thought was if I trained skiing summer, winter, I was that much better than the kid that would train just winter. And I just was super dedicated. I homeschooled kind of half my life, and just was really driven, and I worked as hard as I could to, accomplish goals or dreams. And that was my dream, was to be the best skier in the world. Had a few injuries, had a few knee surgeries, had a few setbacks. And I think there's a lot of people that ski race, and I would say it's a beautiful sport, but it's also like, it can be a little dark because you're just working so hard, and it's always just this, it's a team sport, but it comes down to you on that run or those two runs. And so I think I was going through a transition in my life. I just had 2 knee surgeries, flew to Florida. My grandparents had a place down there, and so for me, Florida was like complete 360 switch of like seeing, beach, and I didn't surf, didn't do anything. And so I went to Naples, Florida, and was rehabbing the knees, and I had actually seen kiting once or twice in the gorge, and it was very minimal. It wasn't talked about. It was all windsurfing, and then I would see like a random kiter. And at the time, I believe it was like Corey Rossler or maybe Lou Wayman or Elliot LeBeau, or maybe, who knows, because it was like one kite randomly, and you would never see it again. And nobody would talk about it. It was really unknown then because it was so dangerous and so new. And I happened to be in Naples, Florida, and I walked up to this kid who was flying one of these kites on the beach, and I like hobbled up with my knees. And it was my birthday, and I walked up August 4th, and he was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I kind of hobbled up, and he's like, "Here, try it." And he just hands me the kite, and I like hold all this power, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what is this?" Now, at the time, that was like the most dangerous thing in the world because these kites were like Hindenburging and like drag you across the beach. I had no clue. He didn't really know either. And it was a wild story about Eric Fote. He was like, "Yeah, my birthday is tomorrow. That's super weird. We're the same age." And just became friends. And it kind of went from there. I just saw this new passion, this new, I'd say extreme sport, but at the time it was just like a new challenge, a new freedom, a new way of using Mother Nature. And so I went back ski racing, and was in Vail and training and competing. And I just kind of felt like I needed this switch. So I just cut cold turkey and just stopped skiing, went to Florida, and started this kiteboarding adventure, and started kiting with people like the Folk family, and then met some dear friends, John Modica and Bucky Ashcraft, and all these people that kind of came along, Kent Marikovic, Todd Grayo. My lifestyle of this new surfing that I didn't know, and all these things started happening. But my drive and my dedication from ski racing completely took on. And so my dedication in training, I think at the time in a sport that was new, was very fast. So I learned very quick because I was so driven. What was funny back then learning kite surfing was all you had to learn was maybe a video that you saw or a magazine or something. But this was obviously published a year before or whatever. So that's the only tricks we could learn. So I just studied and did everything, handle passes to board offs to whatever. And I remember going to my first event and I was like, oh my gosh, I can do all the tricks. I can do it all. And I show up and I was thinking at the time it was all board offs. And I was like, I got all these new board offs. I'm like, I show up and like the transition of starting to do handle pass happened. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I thought we were at board offs. And it was like a total transition. So that was like, you know, how you kind of learn. But I would say that's also how the drive worked. It was actually in Texas. And it was funny because it was in Corpus Christi, Texas, and it was a Red Bull qualifier to go to the King of the Air. And at the time it was called the Velocity Games. And I remember I was actually working and competing. I was a model actually at the time at the event to make some money so I could compete and do this. And I was late to my heat, and like a lot of disasters happened, but that's how you learn. And I just kept driving away. I kept working. I moved to Corpus Christi to train because it was one of the windiest places at the time. Florida was great, but it just wasn't consistently windy. And I had some really great opportunities with companies like Cabrini who came on board and gave me the support. And to this day, I still ride for Cabrini because it's just truly the most incredible water sports brand out there. I had kind of a board opportunity at the time, Zero Gravity, and got my first trip flown to Australia, and they actually paid for my first event along with Cabrini to go to a Red Bull King of the Air qualifier, which if you win, you go to Hawaii. That was like the biggest thing. So I went to these qualifiers and I started winning these qualifiers, and so I won a trip to Hawaii and then went to the Red Bull King of the Air and then won the overall, and then you know, it kind of went from there. But yeah, it was just a bunch of drive, adventure, learning, and just treating people how you'd want to be treated, because I grew up in a way, just respect everybody along the way. And my goal was, well, if I'm riding for somebody, I'm going to respect them as much as possible. So I always would try to, you know, share the passion of your sponsors or the people that support you. And of course, your family. They're probably the most important people out there that take you and guide you and give you those opportunities. But yeah, I mean, big turn since that all started. I had some accomplishments like world champion 2011, I think, in slalom. I did speed events. I was top speed racer, you know, and at one point. I did freestyle, I did big air, I did kind of every aspect of the sport because I was always driven to like challenge myself. So a lot of people just focus on one thing, whether it was freestyle or waves, and I think my biggest thing is just staying engaged in whatever Mother Nature's given you. So like if it's super windy, it's really fun to go big and do kite loops, and it's not as fun to do handle passes when it's blowing 40. So I tried to always morph to whatever the opportunity was, and had some incredible sponsors like Bill Lynch, and that kind of morphed me into meeting Rob Douglas, who's literally the fastest speed sailor in the world. And that kind of morphed into some new opportunities there. And sponsored by Black Dog and GoPro and Lululemon and all these companies. And I would say, you know, to all those young kids out there, I would just say opportunities come by being a good person, you know, chasing your dreams, setting goals, and just, you know, you should never feel entitled. You should always be, what can you do for them? What is it that's going to help them grow, which helps you grow? Because the truth is, the greatest, I would say, ambassador or sponsored athlete or anybody for a sport is somebody who cares a lot about their sponsor and wants to grow it with them themselves as well. But it's more like how much you can work together to grow this exciting thing. And I think the most raw form that's the easiest and the most like flourishing would be just make sure you enjoy every moment you do. So when you're training, enjoy the working out. When you're riding, enjoy the riding. When when goals aren't accomplished, it's still there. Just keep working on it. It will happen. And if you truly believe it, it really will happen. And I would say a lot of times you'll set a goal and that goal may lead into another direction. That's totally fine. Enjoy that new direction. But make sure to always have something you're set after, because I think in life, a challenge or learning is kind of the most beautiful thing. You win a competition. When I won and became world champion, actually at the time I was like, okay, so what am I going to do now? It wasn't like I hit the pinnacle, it's the greatest time of my life. It was more like that was really fun. I got to race with my friends, and at the time I did really well. But it was also like, what's next? What's my next challenge? What can I do? What am I want to focus on? And that's kind of like life. So always set goals, and I think that's what life is about.
So would you say your like mindset was to be the best or your best?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a beautiful question. I would say in life, my direction as a person was always to be my best. It was never to be the best. At the time when I was ski racing, I was younger, the best. As you get a little older, you realize whether or not you're the best that you can prove to yourself is the most special thing. Because I went to events training as hard as I could train to say, hey, I just trained as hard as I can. I want to see where I line up. If I win, I win. If I don't, I don't. But I know for a fact my training was this hard. I truly believe I can win. But I also can say that your brain plays, kind of, it can go two ways. You can definitely be like, did I put enough effort in? Maybe not. That kid worked harder. He deserves to win. So I would say when I was younger, I thought it was all about being the best. And as I kind of morphed and got older, it was more about me personally doing as much as I could and seeing how I was against everybody else. So it was my best. And to me, that was good enough. And a lot of times it was the best. But to me, that was the most important thing, because it was a goal I set for myself. I wanted to see where I lined up. For sure, when you get to a high level, there's a lot of really impressive and really talented people. So things happen. So you may be the best, but you may end up on top. But I would say, as long as, no matter the situation, no matter the sport you're in, if you did your best, maybe politically or something maybe happened, whatever your sport may be, that's okay. Because if you truly believe you did your best, wherever you end up, good for you.
And so what fulfills you, and did that like fulfillment, like that search for this fulfillment, change over the years?
Yeah, so I think, when you're younger, you're a little like, I'd say you're on a path of, you just want to be a pinnacle. You want to be the best at something, and you think that's the most important thing. I think as you get older as a person, you start to realize the most important thing in life is family, loved ones, happiness, healthiness, positivity. Our world gets into depression and negative times, and the news can be negative. There's a lot of negative. There's a lot of negative even when you just go out and get a coffee. You could run into somebody and he's just really negative. And you're like, dang, can ruin your whole day. And it's an energy. And I feel like, there's always a positive in any negative setback. So, okay, I went to a race and I got last. I got to train harder. These guys are good. Or I could be like, I hate this sport. I'm over it. I'm out. Not really. To me, it was like, okay, There's some people training, game time, work harder, train harder, do better. For me, not for them. It was just to see how I do. I just want to be as good as I can be. So I would say throughout your mid ages, like 20s, I would say is when I really had this reality check of I wanted to see how I could do the best, but also enjoy the ride. It was never about going to a competition, stressing out hardcore. It was, I'm gonna enjoy this moment. I'm here. I'm gonna just live it up. I know no matter how much training I've done, I'm ready. This is it. So enjoy it, see it. You know, train hard, still compete hard because that's fun. At the time, it was fun for me, and I think that's what made me successful at the time was I enjoyed it. And I think if you stop enjoying it, I'm not saying you can't not enjoy a craft. A craft, you have to work hard to be good at something, so it becomes work. But you got to really look at those small positives that are in it. And when I say small, when you're working really hard at something, it becomes a job. Any job becomes tiring. So no matter what you're doing out there, make sure to enjoy the little moments. There's always moments. It may be, you know, you do handle passes your whole life and you go for a handle pass and you totally screw it up and you swing under your kite and you like land backwards and you just start laughing because it was like a total disaster, funniest thing you've done. Enjoy it because you do handle passes all day and it's just you're having a little bad moment. You got to enjoy those little things. But to me, I'd say in my 20s is when everything clicked. And then from that point on, it was just like my whole life, all I wanted to do was just share positive moments with people, share their experiences, and always just make sure like the youth, the people growing up, don't ever forget, you know, I would say when I was ski racing, I met one of my idols and we were actually in a bathroom and we we're just washing our hands and I was just like, oh my gosh, I think you're the greatest. And he kind of like didn't say one thing, I won't name any names, but he kind of was just like, eh. And I was just like, man, like you're this amazing person and nothing. And I was like, I don't ever want to be like that. I want to make sure I'm different because to me, that's like those people, it means a lot. Not saying he made a difference on my life, but at the time I just said, I don't want to be like that. And here's a great story for people that if you just want a little bit of inspiration, but I would say when I was ski racing, I ran into a kid when I was racing, youth racing. And at the time I was really good in my age and I had the opportunity to race against college racers. And I went to this college race, I was in high school and you weren't allowed to sort of be in it at the time. And I was able to get into this race and these kids were super fast and I'll never forget it. But at the time I was sponsored by Rossignol and had a lot of gear and this guy showed up at this race and he's this college athlete and just blew the doors off everybody. And he had cardboard shin guards, totally looked ghetto, like Carhartt pants. And I'll never forget, I was like, man, here's this guy dominating everybody and I have all this gear. And I went to my dad and I was like, Dad, I really would like to give him my shin guards. Like I get free shin guards, like I'm younger, but like this dude kills it. My dad's like, you should, if you want to do that, go ahead and do that. And I was like, yeah, okay. So I go up to the guy and I'm like, dude, I watch you run. Oh my gosh, you're like insane, whatever. I was like, I'd love to give you my shin guards because you have these like cardboard shin guards. And he's like, man, I got a bunch of shin guards at home. He's like, I'm comfortable in this. This is how I train. And I was like, holy crap, this dude like has the gear, but this is what he trains in and he's comfortable and he dominates everybody. And like, that was a cool turning point in my life because I realized like you can make gear work even though people get really caught up in, I need this is the perfect thing for me. This is all I need and I'll be the best in the world. It's not always the gear. And that was a big realization. And at a young age, you think it's all the gear. And so that was a huge wake-up call for me in life because as I went into my kiting career, I rode whatever. And there's no question, I had great sponsors. I had some of the best stuff. But I never tried to make gear be that mental click that I needed because that can be a huge setback because that kite may be the fastest kite. That board may be the fastest board, but then mentally you start saying that guy's on the faster stuff, game over mentally. And in reality, I think the physical body of a person can do so much more than they ever think, that you can actually make product that maybe isn't as good, as great as you ever wanted it to be. So I would say to any youthful person coming up, I would say, look, there's no question. Like if you're in IndyCar and you're with McLaren or, for sure there's some car companies that are probably faster than the other ones. Here's what I would say. Your driving skill, even if you're in the slower car, will be noticed and you'll be in that faster car. So just put your time in, put your efforts in, and the dedication, talent, and great personality will always rise to the top. I think if you think you're just going to be good and you'll be the best and you think you need all this, I would say you're going to be good when you're good. The second you start losing, see you later, because they want a good person to represent. So I would say midway through my life, I was very driven to share, passionate about, giving back, being positive, but living in the moment, enjoying what you do. I don't care what you do. There's always something good in it. I don't care. It's not being a professional kite surfer. It can be taking a walk with your dog. Enjoy it. Like if that's what it is and you enjoy it and really enjoy it. And I would say a few years ago, I was paragliding, something that I absolutely fell in love with, was doing for 12 years. My mindset was enjoy life, live in the moment. And that day I was sharing paragliding with a friend, and he had like his greatest flight of his life. And it was the most perfect paragliding day ever. And at the time we were flying powered paragliders, which is an engine on your back. And it was just magic. It was here in Florida, just perfect conditions. And I went up and just like any other day, I've been a pilot. I fly Super Cub, and when it comes to flying, you respect it. You always have a mindset of there's certain things you can do a little more extreme, and then there's certain things you don't do extreme. For myself was paragliding and flying. It was, a lot can happen from up high versus kite surfing. Yeah, you can kind of skip across the water and for sure get hurt, but different story, plane crashes so that was kind of always my mindset, even going through life at the time, and I would always think things out and look at conditions and analyze it and see pros and cons and risks and rewards. And I went flying that day. It was a perfect day, and long story short, I had a scenario with my paraglider where my wing stalled and went into an incredible like helicopter spin with my wing and my engine. And it's amazing how everybody talks about car wrecks or incidents or accidents or whatever it may be. It slows down. So we'll just say the whole experience was 20 seconds. And it slows down. I mean, it felt like hours. You think every process of how to get out of it. You think of, so I'm under canopy, I'm under a paraglider, and I have an engine on, and I'm like 450 feet at least over the ocean, but the wind's onshore. And I just instantly unclipped everything because I knew if I was going to go in the water, I just wanted to hop out maybe 5 feet and just not be in my lines. You have inflation devices, but what I knew about inflation devices in the ocean is they potentially can flip the person face down. And I just was like, okay, these are just normal thoughts, I was under canopy. I was totally fine. I wasn't like freaking out. I'm just going to go wherever the wind takes me. The wind was onshore, so that obviously turned my wing downwind. It was probably blowing 8 miles an hour, and my glide ratio was like at least 11, so I'm like going downwind at 20 miles an hour, and just under canopy, but I'm just completely spinning. And we had a big, I guess I had some options, and my options were not looking so good. And so I believed if I stayed under my canopy and rode it to the ground, I wouldn't be here today for sure. Like, not a question in my mind, I wouldn't be here today. So the hardest decision I had to make at the time was what I was going to hit. For sure I wouldn't be here. If I stopped or jumped out of my paraglider earlier, it would have been 30, 40 feet, a lot lower, but dead flat ground. So in my head, I was like paralyzed. So I couldn't hit what I was going to hit. I couldn't jump super early or super late because 30, 40 feet sounded great, but I think I would have been paralyzed. So I actually decided to jump earlier, which was 100 plus feet, which is a lot higher, but I had something to break my fall, which was mangroves and bushes. And so being a ski racer, jumping cliffs, I just hung from the lowest point, did like when you jump a cliff, you never land straight legged, you kind of land like butt checking it because it's like the safest sort of way. So that was all the training put in, and I just nailed where I wanted to, let go, and landed in the bushes perfectly. And that's when I I broke my back, pelvis, sacrum, 3 broken ribs, 1 rib punctured a lung, blew my femur apart, ruptured an artery in my leg, and was blacked out for 10 seconds, maybe 20. And I come to and I'm in the bushes, and I knew exactly what happened. I was paragliding, and here we are, and I really jumped, and I'm alive. And my dear friend Jacob comes running up, and he's like, man, your leg's broken. And, I'm like, I know I'm having troubles breathing, but I'm okay, and we're good. And right then is when it started positivity. Like right then, it was like, okay, I'm alive. I'm going to get back. I'm going to be okay. I have no clue what's wrong. I know my leg's broken, but we're good. We're going to be okay. And then, helicopter ride to the hospital, finding out what's wrong. And craziest story, truthfully, the reason why the good Lord, one, gave me a second chance, and the good Lord gave me the greatest gift in life, and that's my soon-to-be wife. And yeah, it's just insane. So my nurse that was there is now my soon-to-be my fiance. And yeah, it's just insane. Did I ever think that's how I'd meet my wife? Whew, no. Things happen for a reason. That's all I can say. And yeah, it's total miracle. Within a couple months, I was back kind of, you take every challenge as it is. So I was lucky to be able to just have a femur rod put in, and my back was going to heal by not moving. The ribs were going to heal. Punctured lung. The biggest one was I was losing a lot of blood in my leg, and they finally found that my artery needed to be cauterized. And so I started the process, which is being positive and coming back as best as I could. Now, being an athlete your whole life, you're like, man, I hope I can walk. I hope I can do this. I hope I can do it. And I literally, in the beginning part, the leg didn't work. So I'm like, okay, well, I got one that works. And I'm not paralyzed. So life's good. This is good. And I remember the day with my mom when we actually lifted the leg. It was like mind blowing. I was like, it works. It was like a shock. But those are those little like bonuses or little positives you take, and it's like a check. It's like, I'm just that much better and that much better and that much better. And all of a sudden you can be back. And I think, this is an accident. It can be bad marriages. It can be depression. It can be absolutely anything in life. You just have to really look. There's always the glass half full instead of half empty. It's there. You just have to look. And we get really caught in negativity. And I would say, that's the only thing that helped me was just always being, there's more. I can overcome this. Okay, I'm okay if I can't run, but look, I can hobble. I'm walking. I'm not in a chair. So there's always that positive. And then all of a sudden I got to the point where I could work out, I could do this. And so that mindset switch, all it really did was, well, for sure it led me to complete happiness with my beautiful angel, Alex. But I would say you think about things a little bit more, which I did before, but I would say risk reward. I now look at things like weigh it a little differently. Physical health is very important. Doing some crazy thing, yeah, risk. Let's see, if I'm gonna jump over a pier, risk reward. Risk pretty high. You hit the pier, lot can go wrong. Reward, I go over the pier, pretty cool. People are stoked, sponsors are stoked. Or I think differently and I go, How about I kite from here to the Bahamas? Risk, don't make it, get tired. Reward, probably a lot of news coverage, same kind of thing, same kind of promotion. So I'd say for kids and anybody in life, there's a lot of pictures you can take. For sure it's cool to be the guy who jumps over the pier, that's huge. I'm not saying I haven't done it. I'm just saying there's many ways to look at things to be successful and many ways to be valuable. And so I think in life, that's kind of what it changed. But the neat part is it only pushed me harder to share positivity in life because, for me, learning new things is like the coolest thing. So if I can share it with somebody, we all love sharing that. When you're knowledgeable about something, that's the whole point, is to share knowledge to people. Everybody wants to help everybody. Yeah, you may not want to do it every day, but I would say everybody truly likes to give knowledge because you feel good you're helping somebody. So that is life to me. So the more you can learn, the more you can share, the more you can help, is just gold.
I definitely saw that aspect in you right away, and we just met, but that you are a giver, How does it make you feel when you receive?
Yeah, that's an insane question. That's a very insane question because, it's interesting. I feel like I have everything. So I love the gift of when somebody shares that feeling of I gave them some advice and they're so stoked on whatever it is. To me, it's accomplished, fulfilled. And it's not I need anything. I never give to get anything back. I give because I want to give. That's it. There's no I don't want any reward. And I think there are people that they need to give to feel come on. And that's what they need. I'd say I give 100% because I want to give. That's it. But I would say when people give you gifts or do things, you're oh man, really, I have everything. I'm incredibly happy. So I'd say the greatest gift to me is when I see somebody happy in something they've learned or just a little advice that helped them, or they're starting to change their life because of something. And I'm not saying, it's miracle stories with everybody, but the littlest thing can be the greatest thing. Maybe it's, just trying something new with your relationship and all of a sudden, you're both happier. It can be the simplest thing, or it can be I'm out of shape and I really would like to get in shape, Damien, and I don't know if I can try kiteboarding. Well, get down here. Let me spend a couple hours out of my time. And yes, it's my time, but you know what? I know in the long run, maybe in 50 years, that dude's gonna be the happiest guy on the planet because of 3 hours I spent. It's worth it. Nothing in return. It may not work. Many people you try to help does not work. But look, I did the best I could. They're gonna find it when they're ready. That's all you can say. So I would say that's my greatest. I would say what I receive is when I just see that people are on the right track, they have positivity in their life, they're happy about life, and that's it. They start to surround themselves with good people, and I think that's a very important thing in life because you can get caught in ruts or caught in areas where you're not surrounding yourself with good people, and that will bring you down because you're the one trying to help everybody. And there's a certain point where you got to be okay, take a step back and be is this healthy? Nope, should be here, or let me try something new. And my biggest thing I would say to anybody is, man, get out and do something. We always sit there and go, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna learn how to play the guitar. And tomorrow comes, and I'm I'm super busy. I'll do it the next day. I'll do it the next day. I'll do it next week. I'll do it next month. And in reality, it just takes okay, I'm gonna start. And within a year, you're playing a guitar. But don't put it off. If you want to do that business, if you want to do something, for sure you're going to fail. For sure it's going to be hard. And for sure you got to work at it. But give it a shot. Because if you never give it a shot, you're never going to know. If you want to make money, you can make money. Go make money. You got to think. You got to use your brain. You got to come up with a process. And you got to try. You're going to fail, but you can make money. if you want to talk to the girl, you want the hot girl that's sitting on the beach, you got to go talk to her. She ain't going to come to you. And if she does, great, you're lucky. But I'm just saying, like, that was a very valuable thing when I was young was, like, you never know if you don't try. So ask the questions. It's not rude. It's not disrespectful. Always be a good person, be genuine, but learn, go ask, go see, I don't know. That's my best advice for anybody out there when it comes to work, relationships, anything. Just ask the questions.
So was like failure growing up? What was like how was like failure considered? I mean, I think I know the answer, but can you like?
Yeah. So there's people. I was an athlete for a long time, so you see all different trades of athletes when you go to athlete camps and sponsor camps, and you see every type of athlete. Failure for our family or myself was never failure. It was learning. It was, okay, so how do I learn from that? That was failure. Losing something, even if you had complete, and I touched on it before, but like losing, say, a soccer game and you did everything right, but maybe they gave you a penalty for something. That's out of your control. You did everything right. There's judging, there's things in certain sports that you can't control. You can control what you did. If you did everything right that you believe you did right, you won, whether you lose or not. That to me is overcoming failure. So failure was never, you get down, but you got to learn from it right away. Like it's never a setback. It's okay, this is what I got to do. And to me, that's how you become good at anything. And that's how you enjoy life more, because it's never a failure. You don't fail, you just learn. I think I watched a Netflix thing on Michael Jordan. I mean, he literally brought people up around him. Was he a great person? I think he was a pretty hard teammate because he was so driven to win. But he actually brought people up and put them in a level that they didn't know they could be in. And to me, that's pretty special because he knew if he brings everybody up around him in a pretty team aspect, they're going to win. And I thought that was pretty interesting.
So, did that how do you handle failure? Did this, your parents taught you that, or did you find it yourself?
I think there's no question my parents instilled really great values in us at a young age. I mean, they dropped me off when I was 14 in Mount Hood, and my first job was 14. They dropped me off in an RV, and I cleaned toilets, mopped floors, so I could train every day and get free food for skiing. I cried like the first night, like uncontrollably, because I'm 14. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like, this is crazy. And those values of just starting to work hard and work for something that I wanted, and work. No matter what you're doing, you should always try to work. I don't care if it's working at the lowest paying thing. Just it's good for your brain to get out, talk to people, do a routine, and then hopefully you can move to maybe something higher and higher and higher and build your way up into whatever career you want. But don't just stand there and do nothing. You will literally go into super depression. I would say, to answer your question, 100% my parents instilled really good values with failure and with, I would say these are kind of how they molded us. We got a dirt bike when I was like 3 or 4 years old or something. I think Santa Claus brought us a dirt bike, and it said on the dirt bike, if you come home crying, we're going to take it away. Your parents are allowed to take it away. So my brother and I are like, okay, well, it's a dirt bike, like, what are you going to do on a dirt bike? 2 brothers. I mean, of course, we're going to murder ourselves on this thing. So it was winter. So we're in Colorado. So what did we do? We started riding a dirt bike in the middle of winter, ice, you name it. Dude, we were crashing left and right, murdering ourselves in the middle of the snow. And we would come home totally crying, totally beat up, hit that door, wipe them, walk in, we're good, walk right to our room, start bawling. And that was like our way of like, we can't get it taken away. You know, it was like, we're okay, we're good enough, our bones aren't broken, you know. But I would just say, you know, you gotta respect it and earn it. And we were lucky to have that gift, and that kind of taught us in life, you know, you work hard for something, you get it, respect it. And so I think that's kind of how the failure side of things, you know, we didn't really go to the doctors when we were hurt. And I don't know. Yeah, we grew up differently in Alaska. We lived 100 miles from Anchorage in the middle of the bush. So we were on jet boats. We had to fly in by float planes. There's no cars. There's 4 cabins on the river, all fly fishing businesses. And it was like, you drop a knife in your foot or you cut your head, well, we got to stitch it up. There's no hospitals around other than you fly into Anchorage, which is not going to happen. So, you know, it was dig deep and sew it up, you know. And we didn't have, at the time, hot water, and you take showers in the river, and, you know, it's cold, but, you know, you learn to kind of go through these times. And then, of course, you get hot water and you get all these things, and they're like the greatest treats in the world, you know. But I would just say I was raised that way, and as I went through life, I started realizing that to overcome and to get stronger as a person in whatever you do, failure should never be, no, you should take a failure and use it more as drive or motivation. That is how you overcome everything. You know, failure should never just be a setback. I'm done, I quit. It should be a fuel to the fire to work harder.
Yeah, I think often it's the fear of failure that's blocking people. It's not the actual failure.
Yeah.
Because once you fail, that's when you actually realize, you know, I mean, yeah, like you realize it's helping, but I think it's the step before that that's stopping people. Is like,
yep,
I don't want to fail, so I'm not even going to try.
And I'm going to answer this perfectly. So many people fear failure, and I'll explain it as easy as possible. There's a beautiful girl right there. Fear, she's going to shut me down if I go talk to her. Failure, she shuts me down. I'm not with her. I don't know if I can talk to her. She's way too good for me. All those, that's in your head. Think about it like this. Well, I'm not with her right now. She says no, I'm not with her. What do I have to lose? I give it a shot. Maybe she says yes. Maybe we go on a date. Maybe she becomes my future wife. What do you got to lose? The fear of just wanting to walk over and talk to her? Is it worth it? You don't have her right now. May never see her again. All you got to do is walk over and give it a shot. Fear of failure, you may not be with her, but you'll never know if you don't ask.
But also, what if all your friends are watching? Now, I think that's something.
Very good question. Yeah. So all I would say is this. It's what you drive for your future in your life. So if all your friends go jumping off the bridge, risk reward, do I want to go jump off that bridge for me? Friends will always love you, care about you, but in reality, if I think this girl is my future potential, fear of failure, it's worth it, even if I look stupid in front of my friends, because she may be the one. You never know. So I would say don't miss opportunity. Open every door, give it a shot. You never know. Did I think I'd be laying in a hospital room and see the most beautiful thing ever come over me? Not a chance. You know, I was like, for sure, farthest place from meeting, you know, my future, just the person that's the love of my life. Not a chance. Yep.
So, switching, but why are you not living in Maui, and why do you choose to live in Florida?
Whew, great question. So I live in Florida because I love, my favorite place is Australia. I love Greece. I love Italy, Europe. I mean, you name it. The whole world is a beautiful place. Maui, I mean, I've been there millions of times because Cabrina is kind of based out of there. You know, there's so many beautiful places out there. The reason I live in Florida and why it's good for me is I actually I have an incredible life of one, my beautiful family. We have multiple conditions. Is it like Hawaii? Jaws and big waves? And no, it's not. Would I want that? For sure, it's a beautiful thing. But what I also enjoy being more in the States is I can challenge my brain just as much as my body. So I can have a really sophisticated job, or I can work really hard at something and I have some opportunity. It can be more challenging to be in places like Hawaii and have a great opportunity to flourish in life. Not saying that that was never my drive. So if I really truly believe that, I believe I could have gone and made that drive. But to me, what I like about Florida, what it offers is we can literally have some of the most beautiful diving that you have in like Cayman Islands. We have some of the most incredible kiting. We have some of the most incredible e-foiling. We have some of the best surf. We have some of the best paragliding. There's everything we need right here. So for me, I get to challenge my mind with work. I get to play as hard as I want to play. And I have the most incredible family here. And some of the most beautiful people live in where I live, Jupiter, Florida. And I say that I've traveled the world. There's really wonderful people a lot of places. But for some reason, Jupiter has a very unique culture of people that it's not about who you are. It's not about what you've done. It's about enjoying what you have going right now. And to me, that was pretty special. And that's what brought me here. And people like John Modica and Harry Andrews and the Olivier family and Ken Marikovic and Todd Grail. There's many that you could just say that morph to this. We'll call it South Florida. But I would say Jupiter is a pretty special place. If there's one piece of advice I'd give to the whole world or to anybody out there, I would just say, man, live. You don't know when your time's up. And I know, you don't realize it until, it's kind of a perfect example is this. When somebody dies in your family, people mourn or, you should be celebrating. They had the time of their life. They lived it up. Awesome. It shouldn't be mourning. It should be, that's what life should be. So, really enjoy, love the ones closest with you, live in the moment, dream and set goals. And I mean it like dream and set goals, because you have now. You don't know if tomorrow your last day is here. You don't know. And you may be doing the most extreme sports, but it's not that. Maybe it'll take you. It may be a car crash. It may be anything. So love the ones closest to you. Never leave your house without saying I love you, and never leave with a grudge. Never, ever try to leave the house and have negativity. Just look, if you can treat everybody better than I would just say treat everybody the way you'd want to be treated. And the more you can do that, the happier you're going to be, the more friends you're going to have, the more opportunities happen, the more things come your way. The more negativity you let in your life, the more things are going to affect you badly, for sure. So I would say enjoy life, love everybody, and just get up tomorrow and do what you wanted to do. Don't wait. There's no point to wait. You don't know when it's going to end. So don't wait.
Sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, man.